Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy, and this is the Nerdy, the Wordy, the Book Club. That's right. Welcome back to the channel. It's got a little bit of a different look today. I am solo, and this room has been partially broken down to move. So if the sound is worse, please let me know. But there's also probably, if it's echoey, there's probably nothing I can do about it. Everything must go. Clarice is in Germany. She is currently road tripping. She's somewhere between Germany and Switzerland right now. I love my wife. She's not the best at communicating day-to-day stuff. I will hear about kind of the whole trip at the end of it. And so that's how it's always been. And I love that about her. And so I'm very excited to hear about the trip. I don't really know what's going on with her. I know that she's having a blast and she's with good people. So today I'm all alone, but I'm doing a podcast about Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. That's right. We're going to be talking about a book that came out a long time ago for children. And I'm going to tell you all of the nitpicky reasons why it's bad. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. This book's very good. I think Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief, given the demographic that it is aiming for, is actually a really solid book. I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's very entertaining. I understand why it's been adapted twice, and I think that those adaptations both have pretty big failings that have let this book down. And if they had hewn closer to the source material, I think they would have performed better, honestly. There's a gold mine here, and they've yet to find the right team, I think, to explore it. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for being here. A bit echoey, but fine. Sorry about that. I realized that I was still going to do a book club in here after I took a bunch of stuff down. And so the room is just a little bit empty. And yeah. Skipcat says, all we care really is that she's safe. Details are fine later. 100%. Honestly, I might tell her to just not tell me anything and then have her tell us together. We might do like a live stream where she tells those stories and I get to hear about them with you. I think that would be really fun. Victor Desana says, it's my childhood rather than Harry Potter, so it's my preference. That's fair. And honestly, I think that it's very similar to Harry Potter in a lot of ways, obviously, right? Like the magical child with the relationship with a parent that they're unaware of that leads them to a magical world. You know, this and Harry Potter share a lot of similarities. Insane world building that is wildly problematic. Yeah, it takes place in both. But I think that Rick Riordan has a better track record on being human. And so I will take that. First time reading for you, Skipcat. How do you feel about it? I'm very curious about the first time readers. This is an interesting one because I'm not really a first time reader, right? I am. This is my first time reading the book, but I have seen I saw both movies when they came out, just to be forthcoming about that. And I did see the TV show. We reacted to the TV show. And I started reading this book back when we did the TV show, but I hadn't quite finished it. And then things fell off and I was like, oh, I need to do a book club on this. I'm going to finish it. So I finally finished the whole book. There are really good things about this book. There really are. There's also some like insane things about this book that drove me up a wall. Victor Desana says, is it the godly backed World War? Oh, is it insinuating that like Hitler was the son of Hades? That's a choice. That's a choice. The train ticket. Oh, no, getting the train ticket. Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's talk about them in order. Let's go through the book in order. But I do want to say, before we get into the book, I really liked it. I think Rick Riordan's a very fun writer, and I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do all these books. I don't know when the next one will be. It might be this weekend. I might do it on Sunday. The plan is to have movers come move all our furniture on Monday next week. So I can't do like every Monday. But the plan is that before we get too far in, I do want to say that this podcast is sponsored by me. So that the sponsored segment is going to be me talking about Heroes Without Borders 2. That's right. This November and December, you can join us on a journey to bring goodness to the world, to help the world by raising money for Doctors Without Borders. We are doing the sequel to our successful 2024 charity Heroes Without Borders, the Crit Award-winning best charity event of 2024. award-winning. Thank you, Skipcat. Yes, the award-winning charity show is returning. We'll be returning November 8th, Saturday night, November 8th, for the kickoff. That is going to run into December. It is going to be 10 streams at least. It is going to be at least 40 players. The at least is because I'm inviting a bunch of people, and if everyone says yes, I will make it work. But we are doing 10 streams, raising money for Doctors Without Borders once more. So come join us in November, December. It'll all finish up around, I think December 13th is the last Saturday. And yeah, it's going to be Wednesdays and Saturdays from the November 8th to December, I believe, 13th. This year, we're raising money for Doctors Without Borders and the incredible work that they are doing in Gaza, the Sudan, and Ethiopia. So please come join us. There's a lot of goodness that we can do together as a community in this world. And if this is what I talk about in the sponsor segment on everything I do for the next few months, I'm sorry. This is the thing I want to succeed most in my life. And with that, let's talk about Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is the story of a young 12-year-old boy from New York City who is at a little academy upstate, I think, or on Long Island. I can't remember. One of the directions. And he has been bouncing around schools because he is visited by monsters. And when he's visited by monsters who want to murder him, bad things happen and he has to leave the school. And this all leads up to a year at Yancey Academy where he is struggling a little bit, but he has this great friend Grover, and he has this great teacher who turns out to be a centaur, which is dope as hell, played wonderfully by Pierce Brosnan in the movies. Is Pierce Brosnan in the TV show? Which one is Pierce Brosnan? Now I'm blanking. No. It's Pierce Brosnan in the movies, and then it's someone else in the TV show. I'm blanking. This all leads to a head on a field trip when the Yancey Academy kids have gone to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and he is attacked. Percy is attacked by a harpy who is pretending to be his math teacher, and this leads to him going on a crazy adventure, finding out about the world of the gods, finding out that he's the son of one of those gods, and finding out about a summer camp that is just the greatest place, like a place that you absolutely want to go to summer camp, even though I will argue you should be basically forced to live there. It's insane that they let these children leave for the majority of the year. Skepcat says, keep thinking about young nerdy relating hard to Percy, dyslexia and ADHD wise. I think that if I had read this when I was a kid, I would have. And I think it's why I like the movie a lot. I don't remember liking the second movie very much. I do remember liking the first movie a lot. And I do resonate with Percy Jackson quite a bit. I think the weird thing for me about the magic dyslexia is that he doesn't actually have dyslexia. Like, the book keeps saying that he's dyslexic, and he isn't, right? His brain is hardwired for ancient Greek, and so he can't read other languages. But if he actually had dyslexia, he would still have dyslexia when reading ancient Greek, right? Like, dyslexia isn't a mental diagnosis that affects certain kinds of letters. It's not only Roman numerals, right, that are affected. That's the script that we use, right? Roman numerals? Or no, Roman numerals are those numbers. What is our script called? The actual letters. And so it's just one of those weird things where, like, he keeps being like, I have dyslexia. And I'm like, actually you don't, because you read fine in ancient Greek. Like, dyslexia is the closest thing to what you have, I guess. But it's actually just that your brain is broken because you're a god. It's one of those strange things that on the surface is like a fun detail. And I understand, like, Rick Riordan did that because he wanted his kids, because one of his kids is dyslexic, right? And if I'm wrong about that, please let me know, because I don't want to, like, mischaracterize what happened. But I believe that one of his kids is dyslexic, and this book was written as like a love letter to them. And I love that. And I think it is very beautiful, and I'm not criticizing him at all for doing this. This does not fall into the, like, awkward sort of, like, super crip kind of trope for me, mostly because the super dyslexia doesn't ever actually affect the plot, other than Percy can't read things. It's not like him being able to read ancient Greek is what solves the mystery at the end of the book. It is just sort of a detail about him and a detail about his life. Um, but to say that he's dyslexic is interesting after he finds out when he's at Yancey, obviously, like, what the fuck would a normal, like, therapist know about dyslexia or about being hardwired for ancient Greek, right? There's no world where they'd be able to diagnose that because your brain isn't like hardwired for any language. I can read in multiple languages. Granted, all the same script. Well, no, I can, like I probably would need to work on a little bit to get back, but like at one point I was able to read Elvish somewhat well. I've like learned some Arabic symbols. I'm dyslexic in Elvish and I'm dyslexic in Arabic. You know what I mean? Like the scripts don't change my dyslexia. And so when he starts reading ancient Greek and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, it was just the language that was the problem." I kind of rolled my eyes at that a little bit just because it's allowing him to be dyslexic in a way where he isn't actually when it matters to the plot. That I don't know. It's one of those weird things where I don't really know how to feel about it other than it isn't important. It isn't actually that important to the story. The story kind of takes place in 4 parts in my head, right? There's the pre-Yancey stuff, or the pre Half-Blood Hill stuff. There is Percy Jackson then goes home to his mom. Grover shows up because Percy ditches him at the train station. They end up on this, they go to Montauk. We meet Smelly Gabe. We meet kind of the situation of Percy's life. They go to Montauk and they end up getting chased by a Minotaur to Half-Blood Hill. That's sort of the second part of this book, is the Percy, or that's sort of the first part of this book, sorry, is Yancey through to Half-Blood Hill and his mom getting evaporated by the Minotaur into gold smoke, him fighting the Minotaur, taking off its horn. Then we get this second part of the book, which is Half-Blood Hill itself, which I would argue is, interestingly, the most important and memorable part of the book for this as a franchise, right? The thing that I think makes this first Percy Jackson book so successful is there is a genuine desire to go to Camp Half-Blood. You know what I mean? Like, it is portrayed in a way where, and part of this is how well Rick Riordan writes Percy Jackson's feelings about it, genuinely. I think that it is less about the descriptions of it than it is the success with which I think Rick Riordan writes Percy Jackson changing his, like, not changing, but overcoming the grief of his mother being evaporated and finding home here. And I think that Rick Riordan has created a place that, by watching Percy Jackson find a home there, he is recreating the feeling of summer camp that I remember as a kid, right? That feeling where after like 2 or 3, you have that first day of summer camp where you show up and you're like, God damn it, like I want to be home. I'm homesick. You spend a couple of days feeling it out. You don't know anybody, so you're getting to know people. And then there's that moment where it all clicks and you're like, oh my God, I want to be here forever. This is the best place on earth. And I think that Rick Riordan is so successful at recreating that feeling in his writing. And it's why I think this series probably works so well. Because I want to go there. I want to be there. I want to experience the smell of these strawberry fields that he keeps describing. This idyllic summer camp where the gods keep the weather from disturbing them so that they have beautiful days every day. And they get to learn archery and all of these fun experiential things. And it is a little weird in that you're like kind of related to everyone there. You are going to summer camp with kids who you do not know, but you are related to all of them, and they all are carrying their parents' grudges. Their parents who they have not met into camp. Like, one of the things I find so funny about Camp Half-Blood as it is described, is that all of these children who have never met their parents are so loyal to the way in which their parents exist in the world. And in my experience, that's just not how teenagers are. Like there just isn't enough. And I guess you do, like, Luke does end up being the person who is rebelling against his father, right? But there isn't enough like kids shirking their parents' loyalties and like dating someone from the wrong cabin to piss off their parent for me. Austin Armino in the chat says they desperately want their parents' approval. I think that that is true of like the 12-year-olds. I do not think that's true of the 14-year-olds. And I really don't think it's true of the like 16-year-olds. And I guess the only older kid that we really spend any time with is Luke, and he is rebelling. So maybe I'm wrong about that, right? Maybe Luke is sort of that representation of sort of teenage rebellion. And we might see that more as Percy gets older. Because I don't even know how old Clarissa is. So it might just be that the book doesn't spend any time with any of the slightly older kids at the camp. If there are any, you know, the children keep dying, which is another part of the world building that is just nuts. Like the way in which the world of Percy Jackson is established as having these satyrs that are going out to try and get these kids to Camp Half-Blood because there's all of these things in the world that want them dead. And then once they come to Camp Half-Blood, they're just allowed to leave for the majority of the year. And the satyrs are like, well, if they survived getting here once, we did our job. But after that, that 12-year-old that wants to go home to their mom at the end of the summer, if they go die, that's not our fault anymore. We got them to Camp Half-Blood one time. Audiobook for Slime Theory, it was a big challenging aging the characters. I don't know that that's I don't think that's an audiobook thing. I don't think because I read the physical book. I don't think the physical book describes their ages very well, other than Luke and Annabeth. And obviously Percy, right? And Grover, like another weird world building thing. So Grover is Percy's best friend, who is a satyr. So he's like goat like, which is really cool and totally normal. You know, very what's the fucking Narnia guy, Mr. Tumnus? He feels very Mr. Tumnus coded, right? It feels very much like Rick Riordan was inspired by The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and how when the kids go through the wardrobe into Narnia, there is a satyr that sort of welcomes them to it. And in this book, Grover is the satyr that welcomes Percy Jackson into the world of magic, past the mist, which is the magical force that covers the world. And as a Mr. Tumnus, he's great. I do think the decision to have him be 28 is so fascinating because he just doesn't need to be. It's such a random detail that he's 28 years old, but is like mentally in middle school. And it just doesn't really, like, him being 28 doesn't change anything. It's just, I think it's just a joke. Like, I think that it's just Rick Riordan saying something to be funny. And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't actually, like, change anything. But I kept expecting it to come back. Or I kept expecting Grover to, like, have knowledge that they needed. And what's so funny about this book series is that Grover is 28 years old. He is supposedly a professional at going out into the world and protecting kids from danger, right? Like, that is his job. And at no point in the book does he do that. Like, at no point is he beneficial in Percy Jackson overcoming an obstacle, except Medusa. He does act as a distraction with the Medusa, right? But at every other point in the series, and I guess he talks to the dog, but nothing that Grover does is a skill set that he needs to be older for, and he doesn't seem to have more information than Percy. Percy tends to be the one who figures out what monster they're fighting. And I think that if Grover was just Percy Jackson's age, you wouldn't run into that question of like, well, why isn't Grover solving all of this? Grover's a professional at this job. So much so that like the last time, like he brought Annabeth to the camp 5 years ago. Like, does he not study? And then when he gets his searcher's license at the end of this book, I kind of was like, I don't know that Grover really proved anything in this book that would make me think he's good for that job. And that's mean. Grover's great. He's a great character, and I genuinely like him a lot. I think he's very fun. But Grover does not act in any way throughout the course of this novel that makes me think him going on a solo adventure is a great idea. And I don't know what version of the story they told. Yeah, it's just very interesting. The Annabeth backstory is the only reason why they make him older. Sure. I just mean that he could be like 17, right? He could be the same age as Luke. Yeah, that element of it was a little clunky to me, but it's fine. I definitely expected, because of the way the show has been adapted, or the book has been adapted into the movie and the show. One thing I will say is I expected Annabeth and Grover to have a bigger part in doing things in the book, because they're given more to do in the adaptations. Annabeth in particular has in the television series the moment with the Hephaestus trap, which I think is better and worse than the book in a weird way for that scene. But I do think that Annabeth is along for the ride in the book more than I expected, and I thought that she was going to be given more to. We should introduce Annabeth. So when Percy gets to Half-Blood Hill, he gets chased by a Minotaur. It's a great action sequence. It's really wonderful. He is able to find this like battle sense. He goes into the only way that I think about it is the battle meditation from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. He basically gets his battle meditation. He uses the Force, and he becomes a good fighter. And he takes out the Minotaur, and he slashes its horn. And so but is injured in the process. And so he ends up going into Half-Blood Hill. And while he is recovering, they're giving him ambrosia of the gods. He is being talked to by this girl, who is about his age and is kind of nursing him back to health. And we meet her. Her name is Annabeth, and she is this daughter of Hera, the goddess of wisdom, and Athena. Hey, Athena, not Hera. And she is yearning for a quest because she wants to get out in the world. She wants to prove herself. And over the course of the book, we find out that the way that she was brought to camp was that she met up with Grover and Luke and this girl Thalia, and they came to Half-Blood Hill together. They were being chased because Thalia was this illegal child of Zeus, and not illegal, but God, this book it's actually like so dense. Here's what I'll say for Rick Riordan's. Can I just compliment the man for a second? This book is so dense for a children's book. It has so much lore. But all of that lore is imparted in the book in a way that is so approachable. Genuinely. Like, I think the way that he world builds, while insane, like genuinely insane and potentially problematic in a lot of ways. It's a very callous world, weirdly. Percy isn't. Percy is not callous. But the world that they live in is very callous. And it is very dark. And the book tries to pretend like it isn't. But the way that information is imparted upon the audience in this book is genuinely brilliant. And it's so approachable, despite the fact that there's so many insane things that are thrown your way as a reader of it. Like the fact that, so Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, after World War II, were like, holy shit, our children are so powerful that they are fucking up the planet. And it is lightly implied that Hades is responsible for the Nazis. Interesting start. And so the big three, as they're called, decide they're never gonna have kids. They kind of like strong arm Hades into no longer boning down with human women. And what's crazy is like Hades is married and Zeus is married. And the implications of this is that for thousands of years after ancient Greece, right? Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon kept fucking so many people that they caused all of the wars in between. Like World War One, demigods. The War of 1812, Canadian demigods beating up on American demigods. It's the implications of it are so funny. And it's all it is a detail that exists to explain why there aren't a bunch of other people as powerful as Percy, why he is the most special boy, right? And I think I saw the second movie. I think Thalia is released from the tree in the second movie, right? I think that's a thing. I think we do get to meet Thalia. And I can't remember though. I have not seen the second movie since the opening day it was in movie theaters. So I have no idea. I don't remember it at all. Other than I think that he fights a Hydra on a roller coaster. I don't know. But Austin, is that a spoiler? I mean, it's not a spoiler because I did see the movie and I'm saying it to myself. Me remembering things isn't a spoiler. Didn't realize it was made. Oh, dude, I really liked the first movie and I remember being really excited for the second one. And I don't remember liking the second one very much, but confirming it. No, I don't really care. I'm probably going to read the next book today. I'm probably there's so much stuff to do around the house. I'll probably just throw the audiobook on while I'm working today. So, but yeah, the detail of the detail of the gods being like World War II was so crazy and that's our fault. So we have to not have we just have to stop fucking women, man. Hades, I know you only get to sleep with your wife for 6 months of the year, but you've got to stop boning down. And so so Annabeth's a really interesting character. She is so determined to make something of herself and so desperate to be important. And I think that one thing I think the book does really well that the most recent Disney Plus show doesn't do very well with her is give her some flaws. I think the TV show goes a little bit too far in trying to make Annabeth a great character. And I do think it's a great performance. I like the actress they have for Annabeth. But I think that Annabeth in the show is just kind of too perfect. And the way in which the book handles her crush with Luke and the way she gets embarrassed and like pulls out of conversations with him and her fear of spiders affecting her in the Hephaestus part of the book don't diminish her as a character. You know what I mean? Those things build her up. They make her more interesting because they make her more three-dimensional. And I kind of wish that they had kept some of those elements more in the adaptations instead of just kind of making her fierce. It's weird. Both times that this has been adapted, it feels like they have given Annabeth more to do in the stories, but actually like carved away some of the things that make her interesting. And I hope in season 2 they lean into her being a more fully fleshed out character than just sort of being like the girl boss who's with Percy. And that's what I mean by like the Hephaestus moment. The version in the book is a great moment for Annabeth. Weirdly, she freezes because of the spiders, but she has this weakness. And but giving her a weakness in book one that causes her to freeze up in this moment means that in the future you've given her something to overcome, and it's going to mean something when she overcomes a giant spider later, because she will have grown from the character that froze with the spiders here. But if you don't give your characters those things that cause them to freeze up in the beginning, they don't have anywhere to go. They don't really have, like, even Percy Jackson in this book has that kind of an arc, right? He keeps running from these creatures over. He gets lucky with the Minotaur, but then he's running from these creatures over and over and over again. He also gets lucky with Mrs. Dodds, I guess, at the museum, but that's because she doesn't expect him to be able to fight, right? And it even comes up when he finally stands up to Ares at the end of this book. Ares is like, "What, are you going to run away again?" He's like, "No. I've run and I've run and I've run and I've run and I'm taking a stand." And so building up to that moment mattered. But if you don't have any moments throughout the series where Percy's running from things, then you don't get to that moment, right? You don't earn that at the end of the book, at the end of the show. And so I am hopeful that as they move forward with Annabeth in the show, they find that. I just want the show to let's talk about the show for a second. The show is so fascinating to me, because I think in a lot of ways it is what Percy Jackson fans want, right? I think it's really well cast. I think it's really well shot. It's lit really poorly in some scenes. I'm going to be honest. The scene on the beach where the lighting is so bad that having a black actress play Annabeth, you literally cannot see her, is one of the most insane choices I've ever seen made. Like, if you are going to... And I think that more shows need, like, if you're going to cast darker skinned people of color, you need to light them differently, and you need to hire people who know how to light them. You need to hire people who know how to do black people's hair. It's the problem in the industry where there is this, it's not racism, because there are people who are actively trying to include and be more diverse, right? To open the diversity of these projects up and have these people involved. And so the on-screen talent is getting more diverse, but the behind-screen talent is not being brought in with the skills to support those people to the best of their abilities. And this isn't some like fucking thing I'm pulling out of the ether that does, you know what I mean? Like, this is something that I listen to the people of color in my life, the actors in my life who deal with this on set, who show up and have makeup artists who do not know how to do black people's makeup, who do not know how to do black hair, who do not know how to light and shoot black people. And it isn't racism. I want to be, I'm not trying to say that it's racist, because it is an attempt at increasing diversity. But if you do that without care and without thought, I think that you end up in some weird positions. And I think that Percy Jackson Olympians does a good job by making Annabeth black. I think it's a great choice, and I think she's a great actress. And I think that there is nothing about her being black that changes the series in literally any way. It does not matter. But there are some decisions that you make in doing that have to be more thoughtful than I think that show did, particularly with how they used lighting. That having been said, book Annabeth, very interesting character. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. We've all read these books. Do I need to go beat by beat? Let me just say the entire plot in order, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, Percy goes. We're at camp. Percy gets attacked by Clarissa near the bathrooms. She drags him into the bathroom to swirly him. He has magic water powers, and he like water whips her. Then Annabeth is like, "I want you to do my capture the flag team." They do capture the flag. Luke gets the flag because Annabeth has Percy go away, knowing that Clarissa's going to chase him and attack him. I want to say that again. Annabeth, her strategy is to let the least trained boy in the camp get attacked by 5 people wielding magic weapons. I don't think Percy is nearly angry enough at her after this happens. Her idea is, oh my god, this is going to be so easy. All we have to do is allow people wielding magic weapons to attack him 5-on-1. And Percy is like, "Man, why did you do that?" And she's like, "Shut up, get in the water." And he gets in the water and he heals. Oh my god. The fact that, honestly, after the moment in the bathroom, the fact that they don't know that he's Poseidon's son for sure is crazy to me. But whatever. A hellhound comes and attacks them. But Chiron fucking pierces the fuck out of it with arrows. It's dope. And Poseidon claims Percy. He has to move out of the Hermes cabin, which sucks. He likes the Hermes kids a lot, and he has to go live by himself in a cabin that is my worst nightmare. I hate the smell of fish and like the ocean. I'm not a big ocean smells guy. Being in that cabin would be just torture to me. And so he ends up going on a quest. He goes to see the oracle in the roof, the attic upstairs. And the oracle is like, you got to go west. You got to go fight the god that has turned on everybody. You will be betrayed by someone who calls you a friend, and you will fail to save what matters most in the end, which is not true. He fails to save what matters most in the middle. He does save what matters most in the end. So when the oracle thinks the end of the quest is deeply flawed. Pinky Armando says, but he says it smells like the Montauk cabin, so it's happy for him-ish. Oh, it's happy for him because he likes the smell of that. This is it's not a bad smell. I don't like the smell. You know what I mean? I don't think that I would love the smell of Montauk. He failed to stop Luke in the end. But that's not what matters most, Pinky Armando. The thing that matters most to Percy in the story is saving his mom. And in the end, she's saved. But saving Luke wasn't... that's not what matters most. At least to Percy, right? To Percy, the thing that matters most in the world is his mom. The whole thing is about saving his mom. Luke wasn't ever someone he could save. Like, saving Luke wasn't ever an option. Marius of the Bane, but not by his own hands, if you think about it. No, absolutely by his own hands. He returned the helm, and so Hades let her go. The reason she's alive is because he gives the helm to the Harpy. His actions absolutely saved his mom. Without a doubt. If he hadn't given the Helm of Darkness to the Harpy, and Hades had let her go, then it wouldn't be his hands. But he returned the helm, and so he did save his mom. Also, well, no, that doesn't matter. Anyway, so he has to go west. And in doing so, he's going to go on this adventure. He's allowed to take 2 people with him for some reason. The you can have a team part of the quest is something I don't really get where it comes from. It doesn't sound like Luke had anyone with him on his quest. And there's not like a great ancient Greek reason for him to be allowed to have a team. So that sort of, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of came out of nowhere. When Chiron's like, oh yeah, you can take 2 people with you. Annabeth wants to go. And I was like, but like, almost every ancient Greek quest is like one person doing things. Because kids. Yeah. But Luke was Percy's age. It doesn't matter. I did feel, I wanted a greater justification for why he was allowed to take people with him. And it just felt completely arbitrary, which is fine. Like, things can just kind of be arbitrary. But I did kind of cork my head at that when there was no reasoning given. Argonauts were a full team, actually. Well, but the Argonauts weren't on a... The Argonauts were a team that, like, were doing things together. They weren't on a specific quest to, like... Unless I'm wrong about that. I should read the Argonauts again. Anyway, so they leave. They get driven to the bus station where they get on a bus from New Jersey. Oh, Percy Jackson can't fly because Zeus would kill him. Why? I don't really know. Like, the justification for Zeus killing Percy when Percy is setting out to accomplish a quest for Zeus. I mean, Zeus has killed people for less reasons. Yes, 100%. No, 100%. I agree with that. I do think that there is an element of. Are you saying Zeus is petty? There's petty, but there's also like wanting to get things done. It doesn't matter. Zeus will blow the plane out of the sky. The gods in this series are so. You know what it is? It's not. I don't actually have a problem with the fact that Zeus would kill Percy. It's that the gods in this series are so evil. Like, they're bad. The gods are absolutely the bad guys. All of them. There aren't good gods. They're all bad. And so when you have a power structure where you have these kids, like, Luke is right. I think what I'm realizing is that Luke is correct. And the problem with the series is that Luke is right. Like, if the only thing that is stopping the Nazis is the gods not fucking humans, I don't know. I think Luke might be right. The problem is Kronos isn't right, because Kronos is just worse god, or is just worse Zeus, right? Have you read Greek mythology, lol? The gods are terrible. Oh, 100%. 100%. The thing about Greek mythology that you have to understand is that it is mythology, right? And when you make those mythological ideas and stories and fables real to the real world, the cognitive dissonance between those things creates really weird problems that you don't deal with when they are fables, right? Yep, it's stories outside the context. Yeah, when you remove the context of Greek mythology from those stories and you just make them be happening in America, because America is the center of Western civilization, and so this is where the gods live now, which is also a very funny element for this series to have in it. I cannot wait for them to move. It doesn't matter. I like that Riordan tried to make the gods as accurately shitty and tried to deal with it, but sometimes it was clunky law. It's only clunky because he tries to have it both ways, right? Like, the thing I think is clunky about it, again, I like this book. I'm just kind of talking through feelings about some of the funnier, like, surrounding elements of it. But he does want Poseidon to be a character that Percy can have a relationship with at the end of it. Right? Like, at the end of this book, they do try and have that moment with Percy and Poseidon. And the show really leans into that, right? The show leans into Poseidon being kinder than he is. And I think that if the gods were all just shitty and had too much power, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But Poseidon, it does feel like he's trying to make Poseidon be the good guy in a way that I don't think Poseidon deserves. Speak your truth. I'm not here for 3 hours of glazing. I am glazing book, though. Here's the thing. None of this matters because the book is fun. And the story of as an adult, talking about these sort of like larger things around the book, I find very fun and entertaining, personally. I don't know if you do, but I do. I find it fun to be like, this is insane. If you really think about it, this is insane. Well, at the same time, I want to acknowledge the book is great. It's so fun. I like Percy a lot. I like these characters. I like Grover. I don't think he should be allowed to go out on his own, but I like him. Like, Grover would have been a friend of mine if I was that age. Granted, I am the dyslexic autist kid. I probably, if I had read this when I was a kid, I would have been like, guys, I'm fucking half-blood. I don't have a good relationship with my dad. My mom and my dad were not married when I was born. So, like, I know she was dating other people at the time. I might be a half-blood. I would have fully been, like, obsessed with this series. The reason I'm not obsessed with this series is because I found it as an adult. I will say some of your issues are more first bookisms that they pull back on, never mention again. Yeah, and I feel that. I am curious. I'm really curious about the direction of the series because I think that there's so much potential for Percy to end up being a force for change in the system, which I think is really interesting. Like how they handle half-bloods could change because of Percy's actions. Let's get through the whole book so that we can just talk and it won't matter. So Percy goes out on his quest, fights the harpies on the bus, goes into the woods, meets Medusa. Medusa tries to kill him, and really Medusa tries to like murder the fuck out of Annabeth because of who her mom is, but just wants to keep Percy as a statue because she used to fuck Percy's dad. They escape that. They cut off the Medusa's head, send it to Olympus. Really dope. I love the line, Percy, they're gonna think you're impertinent, and Percy being like, I am impertinent. And I am 60% convinced, maybe 70% convinced, that when Percy says I am impertinent, he has no fucking clue what that word means. You're telling me the dyslexic kid who doesn't read knows what impertinent means? Nah, he's 12. He just throws that back at Grover. He has no fucking clue what he just said. But impertinent could mean anything. Percy is not aware. He just says it because it's the last word he heard. Although I guess in that moment, having Grover say impertinent, that kind of ages Grover a little bit. So at this point they flee into the woods and they go to bed, and Grover wakes up holding a dog, I guess, and the dog is like, "Hey man, I ran away. They're looking for me." Because I read English. I know that you guys can't read English because you're fucking half-bloods, but I'm a dog and I can read English. And so I know that they're looking for me. I don't really want to go back, but if you guys need to go west, you could turn me in for a reward. It's so stupid. It is, without a doubt, the most insane interaction in this book. And this is a book where we run into where like Percy will fight a god at the end of the book. But the dumbest thing that happens in this book is that the dog shows up and is like, I read English. What do you guys need? Like $200? That's crazy. They want $200 for me. I know because I go read the signs. Percy's like, man, I wish I could read. This fucking Pomeranian comes over here and is like, I'm fluent in English, bitch. What's wrong with you? I love it. I cackled. I legitimately cackled at this. It's so funny. And so they turn the dog in, and then they get on a train to St. Louis, and they get to St. Louis. The train, I think, is supposed to take them all the way to Denver, right? I think Denver. And so they get off at St. Louis, and they go to see the Arch because Annabeth wants to see the Arch. And I really, really like this version of it. I don't know why they changed this to make the Arch a temple of Athena. I don't think you needed it. Yeah, I don't think you needed to change this to be a temple of Athena. I think that making it just be that Annabeth pulls them away from their quest for a moment because of this thing she's always really wanted to see is just the stronger choice. And I don't know. It's so fascinating. It's one of those things where like I understand why they had to go to. I understand why they like made it the Temple of Athena moment in the show for healing Percy. Right, that's why they go there, right? He gets poisoned early. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about them being kids and that they're on this great quest, but that Annabeth is like, hey, we've got 20 minutes. This reminds me when my family, when I was a kid, we trained across America. We took a train from Montana to Chicago, and then from Chicago to New Orleans. And it was like my mom had dreamed of getting to ride a train across America with her kids. And so we did this big vacation where we just trained the whole way. And it was long. It was a long time to be on a train. But when we got into Chicago, we had a 3-hour layover between our two trains. And my mom had always wanted to see the Sunday in the Park painting, the pointillism painting by Seurat, right? And so we got off the train and we literally ran across Chicago. Me, my 5 siblings, and my mom and my stepdad, because we only had 3 hours. And it was like 45 minutes to get to the museum, 45 minutes back, and we had to get food. And so we got off the train in downtown Chicago and just fucking hoofed it across the city. And we got to this painting and we went to the museum. It's this giant museum and it was on the like 4th floor. And I remember climbing the central staircase up to this painting. There's like all these exhibits. We're just ignoring everything. This gorgeous museum. And we go up and we're looking at this painting and it's huge in person. Like it's so big. And my mom was like, God, it's so beautiful. And we stood there for like 4 minutes. And then my mom was like, all right, we're going to miss our train if we don't leave. So we turned around and we ran all the way. I remember we stopped and got like the worst, like it was like shawarma or something from this stall in the side of this building by the train station because it was the only food around. But it was such a like disaster. And like we were all winded. It was gross. We were all so sweaty when we got in the train. But my mom just wanted to see this painting. And you know what? Fucking worth it. That painting is amazing. It's majestic. It is absolutely beautiful. And I'm so glad that we did that. But it was just this whim that my mom was like, this painting's here. We've got to at least try and see it. And we did. And I'm grateful for that experience. But that is more real to me than her being like, well, we got to go see Athena's temple. I don't know. Anyway, so they go up to the top of the St. Louis Arch, and it is a place that I've been. It is very cool. If you do ever want to go to the top of the St. Louis Arch, I think it is actually very worth it. I went as a child. It is, it's awesome. It's such a cool experience. I had 5 siblings. My parents couldn't afford to fly us anywhere, so we drove everywhere we went on vacation, and so I've been to every monument. When I tell you I have been to every monument in the United States of America, I have been to every monument. Because we road tripped. Like my family just road tripped. That was the way that we got around. And Talon Ramel says, I'm surprised you fit getting up to the St. Louis Arch. Dude, I was like 11. I wasn't 6'4" back then. I think I was, or no. It would have been after my mom married Kim. So I would have been 13. It is very cool. He goes up there. He's attacked by a lady with, Victor DeSana says, no, that's a brag. It's not, man. The thing about monuments is that they're usually cheap. You know what I mean? Like my family, when you've got 5 siblings, when there's 6 kids, vacationing becomes a game of what can we do that they will find entertaining. This is my parents' perspective, that isn't going to cost us an arm and a leg. And so like driving into Yosemite and watching the geyser blow doesn't like it is the tank of gas. But when you are willing to cram all of you into a single motel room, it's much cheaper than like Disney. You know what I mean? So anyway, they go up the arch, and then they get attacked by echidna and a chimera. I am not gonna lie, I've been up there. I don't know that you could fit a chimera, if I'm being completely honest. It is, and granted, I was smaller back then, and like so my perspective of it might be skewed. But Percy Jackson is doing a lot of jumping around for how much space is actually up there. It is a tight squeeze. And they blow a hole in the St. Louis Arch, and then Percy Jackson jumps into the water below. Which, if you're like, is that possible? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. There's no fucking way. I know Rick Riordan already knows this. I know they fixed it in the TV show. It will never not be funny to me that his response to people not criticizing, but bringing that up is, I thought it was closer. Like, it is maybe my favorite author response to a criticism of his own book. I thought it was closer. I don't know, guys. It's fun. So when he goes down in the water, he meets a water spirit who's like, you got to go to fucking Santa Monica. Which is just the funniest thing for a water. You got to go to Santa Monica, man. You got to meet me in Santa Monica. It's too hard for me to live in the river. It's dirty here. And so he's like, all right, fine. He learns that he is hydrophobic when he wants to be, which I think is the most interesting power of his. Like, no wonder Poseidon is the god of the sea. If he can touch things and make them hydrophobic, he can kill any sea animal immediately just by touching it. That's a lot of power to wield over your subjects. And so he crawls out of the water, but he's dry, which kind of allows him to avoid suspicion. He meets up with the team, and they run and they get back on the train. Never get wet, the ultimate power, unless you're a woman. Because that would be unfortunate. They're actually, you know what? There's great lubes out there. There are wonderful lubes. And, I think that if you need lube, you need lube. Just use it. It's going to make your life better. So they finish their ride to Denver. And they get off, and they are very wanted at this point. The news is posting pictures of Percy. The globe, or the American narrative around Percy Jackson at this point, is that he's basically a domestic terrorist who maybe killed his mom and then has been blowing up monuments ever since. And they run into Ares at a burger place that they were ordering food that they were not going to be able to pay for. But Ares is like, I will buy you lunch. Here's the deal. You're going to go to this water park. You're going to get my shield back. And they're like, all right, fine, uncle. We don't want to. Percy's very, very rude to Ares. I loved it. Love the attitude. Very cool kid. But so Percy goes, and they go to the water park. And the water park is a trap designed to trap Ares and Aphrodite boning on the Tunnel of Love ride so that all of Olympus can watch them. And instead, it's Percy and Annabeth, but Percy manages to get them out of it. And finally, Annabeth... Here's what works about this scene for me so much, right? Is that Annabeth freezes. She does, right? And Percy's the one that guides the boat, and they go down the river, and they're being attacked by these mechanical spiders. And then at the end of it, Annabeth pulls herself out of it to be the one to judge the point they need to jump to get over the gate. The boat is careening towards this gate, and it's going to tip, and they're going to go, boom, over. And Percy's like, if I had chosen when to jump, we would have failed. And I think that it's just a really strong moment for Annabeth because she does get it together when it matters most in that scene. I like the scene a lot. I think it's actually very cool. I like having Hephaestus be as petty as he is in this. The TV version of him where he's just sort of sad and kind is weird to me. I don't know how I feel about... And I love Timothy... Not Timothy Oliphant. Timothy, fucking the guy from Psych. I love him as an actor, and I love the idea of him as Hephaestus. I think it's going to be really fun. I don't know where Hephaestus goes in the rest of these books. That portrayal lines up with the trap in the books. You know what I mean? So I'm really curious how they're going to use him as a god in that series. So they get the shield back to Ares. He gives them some supplies, and he gives them a ride or he tells them that they can get in this truck that is headed towards Vegas. That truck has animals on it that are being transported, but poorly. The zebra has hair in its fucking fur. And so they spend the night in the truck. They switch the food around so that the zebra has the fucking turnips and the zebra and the antelope have turnips. The lion has the meat. And they flee down to Vegas. Pinky Armando says, yeah, the TV show tried to soften all the gods. I love the gods being petty and ridiculous. Yeah, and I think the show always going to struggle with that choice. I do. I think that gods cannot be sympathetic because they're gods. And I think the show humanized them a little too much. And like when Ares takes off his glasses in the books and his eyes are a burning fire, that's so cool. Like it's just so cool. But in the show, he's just the Edge. And I like the Edge. I was a big fan of the Edge as a wrestler. But he just is kind of a guy. And granted, calling the Edge just a guy is crazy because he's clearly fucking, a mountain of a man. But I wish they had kept the like underneath the sunglasses, like when Sandman. I mean, we're not reacting to Sandman season 2 because fuck Neil Gaiman. But when Sandman did the mouth eyes for that guy, why can't I think of that character's name right now? I loved it. I'm so glad they kept that interpretation of him. But also like one of the things that stands out to me just to keep talking about show versus books, I don't really understand the portrayal of Luke in the show. They didn't really do anything with Luke in the show, and I wish that they had kept the surfer vibe. I understand that they wanted to cast him a little bit more like he's not like white and blonde, which is fine, right? I think that it would have been interesting for him to be very white and blonde so that him and Percy are very similar visually. He so that he looks like an older Percy, which is what the book does, right? In the book, Percy and Luke are supposed to be sort of of an East Coast West Coast vibe with one another, but Luke is older, and I think that I wish they'd kept the surfer thing. I don't know. I wish they had. I think that show Luke is just sort of a little bit older. I don't know. He's not really from anywhere, which is interesting. Whereas I feel like book Luke really has this like West Coast flair to him, which is so fascinating because hell is in the West. I don't know. I thought the book did more interesting things with that stuff than the show did. Anyway, so they get to Vegas, they let the animals free, and at this point, I think, fucking way back, they iris messaged Luke. This is important because this is how Ares finds them. They iris message Luke and they tell Luke the details. Or is that now? I don't know, man. They iris message Luke. It's a cool concept. The idea that you can talk through a rainbow to anyone who is magically inclined as long as you have a drachma. I think that is sick. I think that is a really fun choice. Austin Arminio says, I will say I can't remember, but I think he's from the East Coast in the books. It's not about where he's actually from. It's not about him being from Los Angeles. It's about the fact that surfer flair feels West Coast, right? That is a very like California vibe for him to have as a character when Hades and like the setup of the world is that the West Coast is Hades, like debauchery, sin, Los Angeles kind of vibe. This book uses, when they get to Los Angeles, this kid's book uses the word gangbanger, which I thought was wild. I did not expect in the audiobook to hear them say it's when they're walking through downtown Los Angeles and they're like gangbangers. I can't remember what the sentence is. But this kid's book has the word gangbanger in it, which is just an insane pull. It was like 2006, a different time. I know. I totally get there was a different time. But to be listening to this book that is very safe for kids, in my opinion, I genuinely think Rick Riordan did a great job. The only word that stood out in the entire book to me was when they're like, yeah, there's all these gangbangers around. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. So they get to Vegas. They end up going into the Lotus Casino, and the Lotus Casino, man, It's such a fun idea. I think that the idea of the Lotus Casino is so much better than the execution of it. And not the execution of it. Once they're in the Lotus Casino, it is great, right? It feels dumb that these characters who are on this Greek quest don't for a second consider that the Lotus might be a bad thing for them to encounter. And I wish I wish the I wish the setup for the Lotus Casino, like honestly, if I was writing this, I would have called it like the Slot US Casino, right? I would have had the name of the casino be like Slot US A Casino, but the A is small, so it says like A Casino, because then Slot US is Lotus but flipped around. And then when you have the kids walk up to it, Percy Jackson's like, the does that say Lotus? And Grover's like, no, it's the Slot US. And then they go in, and then but they literally walk up and they're like, oh, the Lotus Casino. There's no famous Lotus elements to Greek mythology. This is probably safe. And the way in which so once they fall for it, I actually think it's very fun what happens there. And the way that Percy figures out where he is, where he's talking to people who are from different eras, is actually very exciting to me. And it is only a half of a chapter, and so it is very fun. I just wish the establishment of it. Pinky Urbano says, to be honest, when I read this around 11 years old, I knew nothing about the lotus flower stuff from mythology, so it wouldn't have triggered for them necessarily either. But your job was not to be a 28-year-old Greek mythology protector of children, Pinky. You know what I mean? Like this is why Grover is here, is so that this doesn't happen. And so them falling for this in particular is why I'm like, Grover is not up to the task of being on a mission by himself. Like figuring out what the Lotus is before you go in is 1,000% Grover's job. It is his like duty in life. And so him falling for it is the biggest disappointment, I think. It isn't actually that big a deal in the myths. It's a pretty big deal in the Odyssey. the lotus flower, it's a decently large deal in the Odyssey. There's a whole song about it in Epic. Anyway, the setup for this isn't great. And the way we get out of the Lotus isn't great. The fact that they take the Lotus charge card and it works in the cab is fine. It really felt like Rick Riordan had the idea for the Lotus Casino scene, and he wanted that in the series. And the getting into and out of it is clunky to me. And honestly, if I had to criticize, if I had to say like what's the worst thing about this book, my low, which I will give at the end of the book, I'll give a specific moment at the end of the book, but if I had to give a global low, I think that Rick Riordan's scenes, his set pieces are better than his ability to get in and out of them. I think that this book is a series of scenes that are very fun and very well thought out, that are very conveniently fallen into and gotten out of. Some of them aren't. I think that like Ares into the water trap at the park, back to Ares, like that sequence of events really makes sense and is handled really well. And there's reasoning given for why things are in certain places. And so I wish more of the book had the setups and endings that the Ares segment of this book did with the water park. Because you totally get why all of that is happening. You get why Ares wants them to go. You get why Ares can't go. You get all of that. Those elements all make sense. It's stuff like, well, we let the zebra out near the Lotus, so we went into the Lotus because it was just there. And then, you know, like it could have been as simple as, instead of just have someone have Annabeth see Hermes or because the show has Hermes in the Lotus, right? If the book had just had Annabeth see Hermes in the window of the Lotus Casino, and she's like, they're in the middle of Vegas, they have no money, they have no way forward at this point, and she looks up and she sees Hermes pass through a window, and she's like, that was Hermes, he can help us, he's the god of transportation. And then they run into the casino and they get sidetracked by stuff. You've at least justified it a little bit. You've given a reason for why they move in that direction. And they never find Hermes. Maybe he was there, maybe he wasn't, it doesn't really matter, right? But she sees him and oh my god, the god of transportation, I saw him when I was at Mount Olympus 6 months ago, maybe he can help us. And then you kind of get to go to that Lotus Casino set piece, and then you watch them get distracted, and then you spend a couple of scenes of being like, well, we should go see Hermes, and then it's like, well, we have this room, let's wash up and then we'll go find Hermes because we're dirty. And then they get to the room and then they drink more water, and that everything kind of tumbles out from there. But it would just give a justification. The clunkiness is in them just kind of being like, I guess we'll just go in this place. And that to me is where this book isn't always the strongest, even though once those scenes tend to start, they are very fun in ways that the show isn't. Like, the show is not fun. And it's the biggest criticism I have of the show, because it takes the fun out of almost all of these moments, weirdly. Anyway, so yeah, they spend 5 days. I never said this. They do have to get the Master Bolt back by the summer solstice. So there is a deadline. I think it's the 21st. They spend 5 days in the casino by accident. They don't realize what they're doing. They meet some people who have been there since the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they end up eventually figuring it out. Percy pulls them out, and they realize it is the 20th. The solstice is tomorrow. The gods are going to war. One of the things that has been happening in the background of this book the whole time is that the weather is getting worse. And anytime they say Zeus, thunder strikes, and there is this impending feeling of war coming to the planet. They completely cut this for the TV show, and I cannot fathom why. I genuinely cannot fathom why you would cut this. One of the most impressive ways in which Rick Riordan wrote this book is that the weather and the system of the world they live in becomes more oppressive as the book goes on, and you feel it. Percy feels it, and because Percy feels it, we feel it as an audience. Completely cutting that out of the TV show is one of the strangest decisions, because it is so effective in the book. It's so good. And to just get rid of that is bizarre to me. I genuinely will never understand it. Pinky Romano says, I allow Riordan to mess up that stuff in book 1 because he hasn't published many books at that point. But yeah, he's growing as a writer. Oh, and again, I really enjoy the book. Some of them feel clunky, but I think the book is very good, right? I am hopeful that, there's 12 books in this series now. I'm hopeful that by the time I get to book 12, he is a stronger writer. I like the Aragon book a lot. It's clunky and it has some very low-hanging fruit moments in it. But by the time you get to Brissinger, that series is fucking cooking with gas. I want this series to be cooking with gas in 2 books. And with me being like, God. But I can't, like how I talked about Annabeth earlier, I can't talk about how much better he's gotten as a writer if I'm not honest now about the problems I have with book 1. And the issues I have with book 1 are not enough for me to not read book 2, because I like the book a lot. But I think that some people are so scared to say anything critical ever. You can't acknowledge growth if you're not willing to acknowledge that there are things that you don't like about things, right? And so yeah, there's things about this book that I hope Rick Riordan does better in the future, while acknowledging I really liked it. I think it's really well made, and I understand why it's a global sensation. But yeah, cutting the don't say the names of the gods stuff from the show is a very strange choice. They just take a cab to LA, which would be an insane cab ride. I don't know that cabs, the vibes are great. Yeah, Victor Sana, the cabs are great. I don't know that cabs are allowed to drive across state lines like that. There's also the Norse and Egyptian mythology series. Yeah, apparently there's multiple series, but they're all in the same world. Yeah, there's a shit ton of these books. So they take a very, very long cab ride to Santa Monica, which is 5.5 hours, which is crazy. I don't know if I could sit in a cab. I guess they don't have a choice, but like, woof. Yeah. So they take a cab to Santa Monica, and Percy gets in the water, and he goes and he meets with the water spirit again, and she's like, I feel so much better in the ocean. Here are some pearls. If you smash them, they will return to the ocean. One thing I will say that the show does much, much better than the book is how Percy gets to Montauk in the show using the pearl instead of, or not using the, yeah, the fight with Ares happens in Montauk, right? On the beach in Montauk. I'm remembering the show right? He uses the pearl in hell, and then he goes to Montauk instead of going back to Santa Monica. Because we'll get to it. So Percy is like, great, thank you. They go and they meet Procustes, and he tries to kill them with waterbeds. It's a fun scene. It is such a waste of time in the show because Percy just walks in already knowing who he is. I don't even know why they put it in the show with the way that they did it. In the show, it is one of the most, what if we soaked all the fun out of an idea and made it the least interesting version of itself? The book version is very fun. It's a fun scene where Percy has to like convince the guy to get in the bed while Annabeth and Grover are getting stretched, and then he cuts off the guy's the demon or the monster's head. Percy and Annabeth and Grover get released, and Annabeth is just like, you should have gone so much faster. Why were you taking so much time? I'm pissed with you, Seaweed Brain. It's a very fun scene in the book. What a waste in the show. Just crazy. So then they go to DOA Records, which dead on arrival. Very funny. It's a good bit. They meet Charon, who is obsessed with Italian suits. Very fun. They convince him to let them go to hell. They go down to Hades, and one of the elements of this that Rick Riordan doesn't do that much descriptive writing in this book. He doesn't describe things too much. It is pretty straightforward so that kids can keep up with everything without getting into it too much. My favorite description of his in the entire book is the way in which Cerberus, I wish I had it in front of me, but my physical copy is at the other house. I forgot to bring it back with me. So it's in another city. Is the Cerberus is translucent, and it slowly comes to be physical and real for them because they are getting closer to death. And it is one of my favorite moments of his describing the world as Percy perceives it in this whole book. It is such a cool moment. It's so evocative. It really transports you there. And as the introduction to Hades and to hell and to the fear of it, I just thought the way that he introduced Cerberus was really remarkable and very, very cool. Annabeth had a dog that she's sad about losing, and so she did obedience training. So she's able to use a rubber ball to trick Cerberus. They go through his legs. They end up crossing the fields of not Elysium, the fields of the bad place, where everyone is just like a spirit just going, ah. And they go and they meet Hades. Oh no, they don't. They go to the pit. Percy's been dreaming. He's been dreaming about the pit. The dreams kind of spoil the book a little bit. If you're an adult, I think that if you're a kid though, it's just enough. I do think that I think that this is one of those things where if you're younger, what is happening might not be so obvious, but if you're an adult reading this for the first time, it's pretty fucking clear what's going to happen. Asphodel, thank you, Pinky Armando. I appreciate that. This is one of those things. I do feel like as an adult, the twist of it being Kronos is so telegraphed. But I think that for kids, it's telegraphed the right amount. And so I'm not complaining. I think that it's handled really, really well. But as an adult, I think that it's a little... But by this point, if you haven't figured it out, it's just because you're just sort of ingesting as you're reading. You're not really spending time thinking about it. They get to the edge of the pit, and Grover almost gets pulled in. His shoes kind of go wild, and they're able to save him, and they're able to get away. I really enjoyed the description of they start going up to Hades' palace, and the description of Hades' guards being military people across different eras, and just that like of course the guards for him would have rocket launchers, and if Hades was going to have guards in the modern day, they'd be SEAL Team 6. You know what I mean? Not that I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that SEAL Team 6 is going to hell. But everybody goes to Hades. And so who are the people that are going to be guards in Hades? They're going to be the best soldiers on planet Earth, right? And yeah. Can say, having read as a kid the first time, it wasn't painfully obvious, but I didn't think a lot as I read at age 11 though. No, and then that's what I mean. I think that kids' mysteries have to be telegraphed more so that kids don't feel left out. Genuinely, I think that it is an important part of writing fiction for children is that you have to telegraph mysteries to them a little bit more so that they know that there's a mystery going on. Books like Percy Jackson are really important to read at a young age because they teach you some of the tropes that allow you to understand when you are older that you are reading a mystery, right? But you need sort of the entry to mystery ideas. I think it's why the Hardy Boys are really great. Oh my God, there's the girl detective books. I can't remember what her name is. And then Percy Jackson, like books like this at a young age help you learn how to. Nancy Drew, thank you. Steak is meat. Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. I think they help you understand that there is a mystery in the book that you're supposed to follow. It's a thing that I actually think the first Harry Potter book does really poorly. Actually, I think all the Harry Potter books do really poorly. I don't think J.K. Rowling, obviously, fuck her points of view. But the one thing I don't think she does well as a writer is foreshadowing. Her foreshadowing is always very obvious or non-existent, right? The idea that Quirrell is the bad guy at the end of the Philosopher's Stone is like a twist. But that's all. But it's not foreshadowing in any way that's particularly interesting. And we don't care about Quirrell, so it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really... Like, Quirrell being the bad guy at the end of book 1 has no value to the audience because he's just sort of a weirdo that's in a couple of scenes and teaches defense against the dark arts. There's no build up to that. Or when you're reading it a second time, there kind of is the moment with Snape and Quirrell in the hallway, I guess. But because Harry never tries to develop a relationship with Quirrell, it doesn't matter. There's no... The only value of it is when you read that book, you go, oh, it's Quirrell. Oh, okay. I don't really know anything about that guy. This book does that so much better. By the time you get to the reveal that Luke is the bad guy, everyone has a relationship with him. You as the reader have a relationship with him, right? You have this interesting thing where this demigod got one over on Ares. Like, how did he get one over on a god? That's interesting. You've built up the elements of this twist in a way where it is connected to the emotional life of our characters. And so when Percy has to encounter Luke at the end of the book, it is devastating for Luke. And then it's devastating for Annabeth. And it makes them so mad and they have to deal with it in the future. Quirrell is just a twist and then he dies. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it was that guy. Sure. Does that matter? Like, no, it doesn't. And so I think that Rick Riordan is much stronger in establishing that and in setting up the mystery earlier for kids and helping kids understand how to like spot and enjoy a mystery. I really do think it is an incredible way that he's written this book. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. They go talk to Hades. Hades is just such a fascinating character in this. He's so... like reasonable, weirdly. Like Percy's like, but like you want a war so that you get more people in Hades, and he's like, dude, everybody dies. They're all gonna come here eventually. Why would I care about that? And I just think it's such an incredible way to have this character exist in the series where he's like, what do you mean? No one up there is immortal. They're all gonna die. And yes, Victor Sonic, he's also the father of Hitler. which is just the strangest choice to make. Like the idea that Hitler could show up in this book series and be like, "Hey, cuz," to Percy Jackson is so funny that I want it to happen. Pingermano says, yeah, my mom didn't want to read Percy Jackson at first when we kids got into it because she was like uninterested in a Harry Potter ripoff. Interesting. I don't really view it as a Harry Potter ripoff. I do sort of see it as a Narnia ripoff in some ways, but not, right? It does its own thing. This feels way more Narnia to me than Harry Potter in terms of writing style. If I'm being completely honest, like this feels very, and I think that it is the God element of it. I do feel, I C.S. Lewis is so inspired by like Christian faith in the way he writes Aslan and the way that you can feel Christianity really hangs over the themes and the narrative of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and some of the other. That's the only one I've read, but this feels very much because of the God element and the satyr, and like it does feel very much like Narnia inspired to me. I've described it as Buffy, American Gods, Harry Potter hybrid. Ooh, I know, Arminio, I get that. I definitely feel the Buffy vibes. Interestingly, American Gods a little bit. Obviously, very different from American Gods. Fuck Neil Gaiman, but I love that book. I wish he was a better person. Why are so many authors just... anyway, Hades, man. Hades is great. Hades just wants his helm. And he thinks that Percy Jackson stole his helm. And the fact that everyone thinks that Percy Jackson stole everything when he wasn't there is very odd to me. Like, everybody knows that Percy Jackson wasn't present when the theft happened. And so I'm really unclear on... The one thing the book never establishes for me is how they think he did it. They think he's a sneaky spy, I guess. But you would think that there would be some level of knowledge of who's coming in and out of Olympus. I guess they think that Poseidon snuck him in. That must be it. Like, they just think that Poseidon brought him magically somehow. Percy, I'm not smart enough to do all these heists. Yes, Austin. Yeah, they think Poseidon got him in. That has to be it. Yeah. It is very... The element of these books that is Percy being like, everyone's blaming me for all this shit. I have no idea how anything works. I could... Even if I wanted to, it could not have been me. Is great. And so he's talking with Hades, and Hades like shows Percy his mom, and then Percy is like, I am not going to be able to save her right now. And that's the reality of the situation. And so they bop their beads and they get out. They end up on the beach of Santa Monica, and Ares is there, and Ares is like, you were supposed to die, bud. And then Percy's like, fight me. And so Ares sends like a bull at him, and Percy beats that and is like, no, you fight me, uncle. And the cops show up, and the world is also on fire at this point. Hades has sent the army of the dead to attack the mainland, and so Los Angeles is burning. Ares is blowing up cop cars, and Percy and Ares fight. And Percy and Ares are fucking going at it. And Percy wins. He pulls it off. He uses the power of the ocean. Um, and I love the scene in the book. TV show disappointed. Oh, absolutely. The TV show absolutely disappointed with this. The TV show made the smarter choice of having this happen in Montauk and cutting all the nonsense. We'll talk about the TV show in a second. I want to talk about the book because the book is brilliant. He holds back the waves to build up pressure so this massive wall of water hits Ares, which gives him the chance to cut Ares, and Ares turns into his true god form, which Percy looks away from because he'll die if he looks, and then Ares is gone. Percy has won. This scene rocks. It's so good. It's such a great end to the book. It leans on a bunch of different elements that Percy's learned along his journey. It leans on him becoming more comfortable with who he is and the decision that he's made, and he is better with his powers now that he understands who he is and what he's willing to do to save the world. And letting go of his mom in hell in that moment allows him to have the inner strength to go, right? He made Ares bleed his own blood. Yes, it's so good. Everything between this and Olympus sucks, unfortunately. It is the weakest part of the like connective tissue problems this book has, which is the cops come and talk to them. They convince the cops that Ares kidnapped them and took them across the country. And so the cops pass a hat around to raise money to buy them a plane ticket so that they can get on a plane that day to fly back to New York so that Percy can get to the Empire State Building in time before the summer solstice ends. It doesn't really make any sense. And I understand the missed element of it being that humans will look at a situation and see what they want to see, right? So I don't actually mind. I don't mind the cops not seeing Ares. That stuff is part of the magic of the world. But the cops... Is it the same day? It's the same day, Osterminio. It's that day. He has to get back to Olympus or else the war is going to start. And so the idea that Hades is attacking, that Los Angeles is on fire, literally burning, and the cops at the station pass a hat around to raise money of their own money to send kids. Like, there are so many problems with it, right? They don't seem to tell Gabe that Percy's coming. They don't get in contact with his parent. There are systems in place for getting the kids home. The cops can't just, like, buy kids a plane ticket. The cops cannot, in any world, find 3 children who are kidnapping victims, who have just been at the site of multiple police cars getting exploded by a wanted man who escaped, who did not get caught, right? Ares is on the lam. They don't know where he is. This man kidnapped these 3 children. There's no world where the police officers who find 3 kidnapped children put their money together to put them on a plane and just hope they make it home. I understand the idea that you need Percy to get to Olympus by the next day or else world war is going to break out. And so, like, you need to do something. But just have the fucking eyeball guy from the camp show up in the cab and they get in the cab and it drives them home. Come up with any magical reason for why they get back. You have a world of magic. Come up with any magical reason to get them back to New York City, and I would have been fine with it. But the book goes with the cops bought them plane tickets and then left them at LAX. And I just, like, it's one of the most insane eyeball guy. Yeah, Argus. It's one of the most, hey, what's up, Clarissa's Closet? My wife, everybody. She's in the chat from, where are you in the world, babe? Where, maybe you don't want to say, but are you still in Germany or have you guys left for Switzerland yet? I just think in a book full of magic, there was no reason You're in the car on the way to a castle. God damn, your life is so cool. I wish I was as cool as my wife, y'all. Sent a selfie from Cologne. Babe, you know I'm allergic to cologne. Don't do that. Where in the world is Claris Polaris? I have fun, kids. I love you too, babe. In the world where there's so much magic, I just wish they had come up with a better way out of this situation. But it really is the clunkiest section of this book. The show, as much as I think the show is kind of a mess, mostly because it just soaks the fun out of everything, in what is such a fun book. The book is so fun. It's so good. Like, the vibes of the book are so amazing, and the show is cast and has money, and there's so many reasons why the show should work, and the thing it is missing is the vibes. Like, that's what the show fucked up. It didn't miss the vibes. And the thing the show does that's, I think, is brilliant. You got me a gift. If you bring me cologne, I'm gonna lose my mind. James Ross. The show missed the vibes, and the book nailed the vibes so strong that, like, I almost can't believe it. I'm so excited. As soon as book club is over, I'm starting the second one. That's where I'm at with this. Is like, I will be starting the second book in 20 minutes when this is over, whenever this ends. I'm going to start the second book immediately. That's where I'm at. I really like this. I did. I think it's insane. And there's so many things about it that make me cackle. But I liked it, and I'm going to keep going. But the show having the Pearl take him to Montauk so that he just has to get from Montauk to the Empire State Building, brilliant. The show completely fucked everything by having him miss the summer solstice and having him return the bolt after the summer solstice, but that didn't really matter because the war hadn't really started. Like, that decision by the show to have Percy get to Olympus after the solstice is one of the dumbest changes I've ever seen an adaptation make, because they make that change, do nothing with it, and it has no value as a change except to make it stupid. Like, it's so unfortunate that the writers went with that. There's no justification for it in my mind. It is just an absolute failure in writing. But I like the decision to have him pop up in Montauk, have the fight on the beach happen in front of the Montauk cabin, get rid of all the cop shit that just doesn't make any sense, and have him be able to actually get to New York by the time frame. If they had just not changed the solstice nonsense, I think the show version of it would be the stronger version. But the moving of the solstice moment makes none of it work, so it doesn't matter. So they get on a flight. Zeus doesn't kill them because I guess he knows that they're coming home. And they bring him the bolt, which they had. It was in the backpack the whole time. The backpack that Ares gave them was actually the bolt's sheath, and the bolt returned to the backpack when they were near Tartarus. And so that we go from the worst section of the book, which is this dumb cop shit, to arguably the best section of the book, which is Percy goes and has a conversation with Zeus and Poseidon. And Percy, just for a 12-year-old, approaches the situation with so much emotional maturity, arguably more emotional maturity than Zeus or Poseidon possess in the scene. And he handles both of them very well. He returns the bolt. He's respectful. He is not deferential, but he is respectful. He draws that line very clearly. And he doesn't allow them to push him around, but he's not rude about it. And I think that the way that Percy handles the situation is so admirable, because he's so young and he could be so much more emotional, and I would agree with him if he was, right? But the way that Rick Riordan writes the scene is, I think, a lesson in respect, and that you don't have to like someone to respect them. And I wish that we brought this energy to more of our real world life. You know what I mean? I wish more people were able to be respectful in their disagreements. And, you know, the part of the problem is that algorithms have incentivized being inflammatory. And we have a real problem where so much of our financial system is tied up in these websites that want us to be as inflammatory as possible because it means more money, and that is problematic for society as we are encouraged to be more extreme. All of us are, right? We're incentivized at every level to be larger and faster and stronger and more angry and more and more and more and more and more. And we are really losing out on the ability to have respect. Oh shit. Someone just knocked. All right, chat. Clara's in here talking to me. 2 seconds. Gotta love that. uh, so where were we? Does anyone remember what I was just saying? I had to go fucking get a package for Clarus. Just paid $140 in import duties on whatever that was. Canada, man. All right. Where were we? Percy goes and being respectful. Percy gets the version of the ending that he maybe doesn't want. He probably wants retribution, but that he needs from everybody because he shows up and is respectful. Steak is me. Thank you for that super chat. Witcher books next. Ooh, maybe. I think I'm gonna stick with Percy Jackson for a while. I think I might do the whole series as solo book clubs, y'all. I hope that people are down. I really like this. I want to keep doing it. So, I don't know what the schedule for that's going to be as we move into the new house, but for these shorter books for solo book clubs are a little bit easier than like the bigger things. Will of the Many, I'll probably do the second Will of the Many when it comes out, but yeah. Percy shows respect in a way that gets him the ending that he wants. And I think that it's such a valuable lesson for kids to read, and I love that it's here, right? I love that it's handled in the way that it is because it's a good lesson for kids to learn, right? And it's weird. I don't want to only compare to Harry Potter, but they are kind of a similar era and do some similar things. And in comparison to the end of the first Harry Potter book, where Harry kills Quirrell, like literally murders a human being, because his mom loved him, and that gave him a power. And so that's just the end of the book, right? That is what it is. He just has this thing about him that allows him to win through luck, right? The difference is this book really handles, like, Percy has improved, and Percy has magical abilities from his lineage, but he also is intentional, and his decisions are why he wins. It's not luck, right? He doesn't just luck into it. It is very much a intentional thing that happens as he fights Ares, as he goads Ares. He knows things about Ares, and so he's able to use that to get Ares to behave in a way that he needs. And then when he shows up to these gods, it's not just an info dump where Dumbledore sits on his bedside and explains the plot of the book to him. Percy goes into the scene with the gods with intention, with needs, and he equips himself with a mannerism and a respect that allows him to accomplish his goals. And I think that if you compare the ends of the two books, this one just is so much stronger as a lesson for kids to learn, as a kid for kids to emulate. I think that Percy Jackson is a much better role model than Harry Potter. And I don't know. I wish I had found this when I was young. I wish I had found these books when I was young, because I think that I would have adored them. And he has character development. Yeah, I would argue that Percy Jackson has a lot more character development in this book than Harry Potter does in the first book. Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think that you really watch Percy acquit himself to the situation he finds himself in by growing and by learning and by changing. And I think it's really, really well done. He returns the Master Bolt. I really like that he goes to his dad first. And I like that Poseidon is like, hey, I'm his dad, Zeus. This is your house, but I'm his dad. He knows what he's doing. It's a nice moment. I wish the show had kept the, like, exuberant fisherman shit. The production design for Poseidon in the show, of him just being kind of like a white linen shirt, is so flat to me. I love the book version of him having like a big fucking captain's chair with a holder for his fishing line, and he's got his trident there, and he's just sort of this like big dumb fisherman guy. I like the trope of that. Them making him sort of just a really hot white guy in a button down. All right, sure. The conversation goes well. He basically is let off this time by Zeus. The war is not going to happen. Everything simmers back to a cold bubble. But he's like, hey, this is all Kronos, man. Zeus is like, nope, no, it's not. He's like, no, I met the guy like twice. I'm pretty sure it's fucking Kronos, man. And Zeus is like, we're not talking about this ever again. It's not fucking Kronos. And I'm like, Zeus, you are the problem. Zeus, why is Zeus always the problem? What the fuck, And so Zeus fucks off. Percy and Poseidon have a really beautiful moment where Poseidon admits that he had genuine feelings for Percy's mom. Poseidon also stumbles a little bit in this conversation and makes some comments about, not stumbles, he's very intentional about it, but I view it as a stumble of being like, I'm sorry that you're born. I'm sorry you exist. I have given you a terrible life, and I apologize for your existence. It's just, it's a tough thing to say to a 12-year-old man. It's tough. It's really tough to be 12 and hear your dad be like, you shouldn't exist. It would be better if you didn't. Fuck. But he does exist, and he crushed it, and he gets to go home. And so he goes back to Camp Half-Blood, and he goes back to his room first, right? He goes back to his mom. His mom is home, and then he has the Medusa head at home. He has a really, really stark conversation with his mother, where he's like, hey, Gabe hits you. What if we turn him to stone? And I wish the show had kept this, because the show's version of Gabe just isn't that bad. they softened Gabe so much that when he turns to stone at the end of the show, he really doesn't deserve it. He's kind of an ass. You know what I mean? But the show version of Gabe absolutely does not deserve what happens to him. He's not that bad. There's a point where Percy's mom like gets mad at him and he's like, I'm sorry. And the book version of this, when Percy's mom, it doesn't turn Gabe to stone immediately, right? She's like, I'm going to give him a couple more chances. I can handle this. I'm the adult. Like Pink Hermano saying, I love that comment how his mom says she fights her own battles. Absolutely, right? And the revelation throughout the book that his mom married Gabe because he smells so bad that it protected Percy is very weird, right? It's very, very weird. It's a weird choice. I get it. It's a weird choice. But the book version of Gabe really sucks. And when she turns him into stone, I have no sympathy for him. He hit her. I don't care. You know what I mean? If you beat your wife, I just don't care. Sorry. You've crossed a line where like if she hits you back and you get hurt, I don't have empathy for that. The show version of Gabe doesn't hit her. It's never brought up. It's never insinuated. He doesn't even really come across like a guy who would. And I think it makes the show significantly weaker. And I think that it does a disservice to the younger audience in particular. Because the show plays Gabe's being turned to stone as a gag in a post-credit scene, as opposed to a consequence for behavior that deserves it. And I think that kids can handle bad things. I think that kids can understand the world has evil in it. And if you cut all the evil that you wrote into your books out of the books for the show, I don't actually think you earn the high highs that you write either, because you're not allowing there to be evil to be overcome. And it's the problem with softening things, is that the edges are what creates the heights, right? I really do think it is one of the greatest weaknesses of the show. And the show Gabe they should have just gotten divorced. They should have just broken up, right? But if you're going to turn him to stone, he has to earn it. Or else you're the weirdo for turning a normal person to stone. And I'm not saying he's a great guy. Even the show Gabe is kind of a prick. But like, being kind of a prick isn't illegal. Beating your wife is. You know what I mean? They're just go for it. Kids will learn the lesson they need to learn. They'll get it. I promise. They can handle it. And I don't know. I think it's such a weakness. The version of this where she turns him to stone and sells him to an art gallery and makes her life better is actually great and earned, and it teaches a lesson about consequences. And I have no qualms with it. Well, I have every single qualm with the show version. Percy goes back to Half-Blood Hill to finish the summer, and he gets to train with his friends, and he gets to have this beautiful summer. And he gets his first bead, which is the green trident appearing above his head. It was unanimously decided. All the kids have these necklace of beads that they get at the end of each summer. And I fucking love that. I wish the summer camp I went to as a kid did that. I wish I had like a memento of that. Such a cool idea. And then the end of summer comes, and Percy has to make a choice. Will he go home, or will he be a year-rounder? And at this point, he should absolutely be a year-rounder. It's insane to think that he's not. It's insane to think that any of these kids aren't year-rounders. It's insane to me that any of these children are allowed to go out into the world and potentially cause other people to die. Because the reality of this world, okay, is that the children are drawing monsters to them that are destroying buses, the St. Louis Arch, that are gods are destroying cop cars. Like, cops died. Annabeth, look, I get Annabeth is like, I'm going to go try and be around my dad again. Her dad's wife isn't great and things are tough. Annabeth's whole backstory is hard, right? But what's so odd about it is these kids are putting so many people in danger all the time. And the book pretends as if they have to be at the summer camp because the world is too dangerous for them, but it's only dangerous in the summer because in the fall, winter, and spring, monsters aren't doing shit. And that just, it doesn't. Austin Arminio says only the most powerful kids grew monsters that bad. For the weaker ones, it doesn't seem to be as big of an issue. It doesn't seem to be like an issue. I get that. But the book also insinuates that most kids don't make it to Camp Half-Blood and they just die. The gods do not care. James Ross, I know the gods don't care, but it does seem like there are people in this world who aren't the gods that do, right? Like Chiron seems to care. And if I was these kids, the idea that my presence is going to get other kids killed would be really difficult for me to live with. Like, I don't know how Percy like exists within the narrative that his presence is making these kids be in danger. And I feel the weight of that would be too much for me. Honestly, like, I don't know that I could just go out there and be like, oh, a Minotaur could show up and kill anyone around me at any time. It is a weird element of the world building. And like, I have a feeling that book 2 is going to start at the beginning of the next summer. And it's like, well, did Percy just, I guess the monsters took the year off. I don't know. Pinky Armado says, oh yeah, mortals aren't usually unsafe from mythical creatures. I'm not sure what you mean. Like, when that bus crashed, people get hurt. It doesn't matter if, like, the creatures aren't attacking humans, really, right? It matters that they were in a bus crash. Like, the St. Louis Arch has people underneath it. If chunks of the St. Louis Arch are falling, people are in danger. There are consequences to the action of these scenes. And I understand that, like, most media likes to pretend that there's no collateral damage ever. It's one of those weird elements of media where we, like, write these scenes and then we just kind of don't think about what the knock-on effects are. But the books don't really the books don't establish a reason why kids who need to be at this summer camp to be safe in the summer have any reason to go home for the rest of the year and be unsafe. And so I think it's just a hole in the world building in this first book that I have a feeling he will fill in as the series goes on. I think a lot of the things that I find missing in this first book are, because it's already so dense, are things that will be filled in as the series goes on. I think I will have less questions about these kinds of things as he has more time to explain stuff. And this book just couldn't fit any more explanations in because it is already very dense for how long it is. Anyway, they all decide that they're all going to leave. Grover got his searcher's license. He's going off. Annabeth is going to go home with her family. Percy's going to go have one last little the Coca-Cola session with Luke in the woods. So they go to hunt one last monster together, bro to bro. And Luke pulls a scorpion out on Percy and is like, fuck you, Percy. I was the bad guy the whole time. I'm working with Kronos. I have a sword that can hurt both mortals and monsters. It's called Backbiter because I am a fucking backstabbing little bitch. Die, Percy Jackson. Nerdy the kid has ADD. He doesn't need coke. Actually, coke. There are people with ADHD who find that cocaine actually helps them focus. It affects their brain chemistry differently, and so they find themselves more chill rather than hyped up the way that normal people. Too much caffeine in Coke for kids? I mean, yeah, but that doesn't stop them. Do you know how much Coke I used to drink? As I chug my caffeine. Oh my God. I used to drink like 2 liters of Coke a day. It was bad. It was really bad. And so, yeah, the show turning this into a sword fight, I think is actually a smart choice. I think that this scene is a really good book scene. Them just sort of talking while um them just sort of talking this through. I think that it's a little bit like the villain has to explain the plot, but we already kind of know what the plot is. So I feel like the exposition of it goes a little far, considering Luke is just killing Percy. But it is a kid's book, so that kind of thing is fine. And Luke slashes the air and he leaves in a warp, sort of the same way that some of the gods have warped throughout the book. And Percy realizes that Luke was the one behind it all, which leads to the convoluted series of events that lead to the series of events of this book, which is years ago, Luke went on a mission to do something to get an apple. It was kind of lame. On that mission, realized the god sucks. So Kronos gets in his ear and is like, hey, we could work together. Let's do a thing. So he comes back, goes on a field trip to Olympus because he's a year-rounder, where he steals the Helm of Darkness and the Master Bolt. Nobody notices. He gets out of there and he is trying to get those back to Kronos in Tartarus so that Kronos can rise up from Tartarus. During that, the gods all go looking for him. Ares finds him. Kronos tells him how he can get Ares on his side. So he gives those items to Ares. Ares does not give them to everybody else so that his family will go to war. The war doesn't happen, and Luke fails. This involves Ares being able to manipulate both the magic of the bag and also the magic of the shoes. Ares is really good at manipulating other gods' magic, apparently. Which leads to this point where Luke is now going to go off and do something else for Kronos because his plan failed. It is a genuinely convoluted backstory, but the convolution works. It's not convoluted in a way it doesn't hold up. It actually really does. It's one of the most convoluted backstories that you can't really pick apart. You know what I mean? There's a lot of legwork in there to get kind of all the pieces in the right place for this book to happen. But if you really think about the backstory of what Luke did to get us here, it holds up, which I think is really cool. I love, this book, as much as this book is a fun, young adventure story, the bones of this book are actually more of an Agatha Christie novel, including the final act explanation of the backstory of how it happened from the bad guy, right? The structure of this book is, the structure of Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief is more similar to the Rian Johnson mystery movie, not Glass Onion, the first one. What is that movie called? Oh my God. Knives Out. The structure of Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief is more similar to Knives Out than it is to a fantasy book. And because that like underlining structure of the A plot is this like old-timey mystery subplot, the fantasy adventure stuff sometimes doesn't feel like it fits into the book, right? They feel clunky and they feel misplaced. They feel like scenes that don't really affect the larger story because they're trying to make this a fantasy adventure series. But what this actually is a mystery book. And there's a tension between those two things that is settled down because the fantasy action adventure stuff is so fun and works so well on its own. And the mystery A plot underneath it has all of the hallmarks of like an Agatha Christie, the like family drama and the old grudges and the person in the family who doesn't know everybody else. And so is a little bit trying to figure out who has a grudge against who. All of those elements from like an Agatha Christie novel are found in this book. And so it's really tight on that end. And that's really cool to see. It's really cool to see how Rick Riordan took these two genres and sort of spliced them into this thing that absolutely works at the end of the day. And I like it a lot. Percy Jackson decides he's not going to be a year-rounder. He's going to go live with his mom, who has a different place now because Gabe Bugliano gave her money by her selling him the statue of him. And yeah, that's the end of the book. It's great. You never thought about it that way, Pinky Armando? Yeah, I don't think it's the most I don't think it's the most obvious thing, and I don't know that I'm necessarily right, but that is genuinely how it reads to me. And maybe I'm trying to intellectualize it too much, but I don't think I am. I really do think that this has a really solid murder mystery story in it, and not a murder, obviously, because no one's dead. But um, I think there's just this really interesting murder structure or a mystery structure, and the fantasy action elements are fun. Like they are good, they are fun, but they are not the stronger parts of the book, which makes the book stronger, right? I think that when the fantasy action set piece moments of a book are the strongest pieces, the books become frivolous. And this book doesn't feel frivolous because Percy's family drama with the gods and everything is so deeply tied together in sort of relationship drama and this like mystery moment. And I think that it makes the book so strong. The one thing I will say about this series that I do find a little bit weird is there is the beginnings of romantic ideas among the campers. They are all cousins. And I know that there's a Percabeth thing, right? I know that Percabeth exists, but Percy and Annabeth are related. I don't know how I feel about that. That this is addressed in a later book. I mean, I would assume it's addressed. They're all related. They are all cousins. Like, I know I'm from Alabama, but even I'm like, y'all are fucking, you are literally cousins. It is addressed. I mean, yeah, I'm assuming it is, because I'm assuming that Percy and Annabeth get together. I'm assuming that's what Percabeth means. And like, I guess maybe it's like, well, the Greek gods don't care. But they are related. And like, I understand that the god, I mean, and it is god blood. So like, I'm not saying it's going to like give them like fucked up kids or anything, because their kids will have superpowers, right? But except they won't be able to read English. But I just, yeah, I find the true to Greek mythology. You know what? There it is. There it is. Ellipses. Or is underscore? Underscore's right. It's true to Greek mythology. We gotta fuck our cousins, chat. Hell yeah. Let's go on down to the Camp Half-Blood. We can make out with the cousin, then we can make out with another cousin, then we can make out with another cousin. You just know, like, Luke's first hand job was by one of his cousins. James Ross says the gods went after their siblings and parents and children all the time. Oh, I know, 100% James Ross. I am aware that happened in Greek mythology. Again, it's one of those things where when you decide to make Greek mythology real to the present day and involve 12-year-old kids from New York City, them being cousins and being attracted to each other is weirder in the modern context than it is in a myth that was a story people told 3,000 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, the context is different when it's two teenagers from Long Island. Fallout cousin stuff. Exactly. Except this is not a world where it's a dystopic future where everyone's dead. There are plenty of people that they could go fuck. Just give it Brooklyn accent and we're good. Brooklynites are not fucking their cousins, okay? My people fuck their cousins. I gotta put on that southern accent. I gotta go home to sweet home Alabama. I have a cousin. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm saying this online. I have a cousin who is also my aunt. Because I do have a cousin who's also my aunt. So as a good old southern boy, who was not raised down there, but my family was. I do associate, I guess, with this a little bit. Nah, fuck your cousins. Just, don't get them pregnant. You'll be fine. Oh man. Have I met Long Islanders? Yeah, of course. I've been to Long Island many times. One of my best friends is from Long Island. Long Island is a wild place. They have too much money and they spend it on really dumb shit. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a Long Island bar mitzvah. They spend money, which I honestly I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the way they spend money because they I'm clipping that out of context. Please do. Please post that everywhere on the internet. Uh Shit Nerdy Nightly says while reading Percy Jackson, the children's series. Fuck your cousins, just don't get them pregnant. Oh man, I'm so excited to start the Sea of Storms. I really did like this book. I enjoyed it. There's so much that you can kind of like make fun of in like a loving way. I'm not making fun of anything in this book in a like hypercritical way, the way I do with things that I think I take more seriously and that take themselves more seriously, right? Like this series is joking about some of this stuff. You know, Percy Jackson ties a guy down to a waterbed and cuts his head off. Like this isn't the most serious shit in the world. And I think that if you can't have fun with it, what's the point? But I had fun with it and I'm excited to keep going. I really am. I'm also just, you know, I think that this is a series where book one has so much potential for the sequels to grow a lot with the characters and for them to be more interesting and more involved and, you know, be deeper and have all of those elements and things kind of play out in much grander ways. And Rick Riordan has a lot of room to grow as a writer. So I think that there's so much potential for the follow-ups to this to be fantastic. And I'm excited to read them. I'm excited to kind of see when Kronos does eventually get out and how do they handle that? Because I'm assuming he does, right? I'm assuming that that's kind of what this builds to is sort of this book sets the stage for these characters to be interacting on a level of what gods choose what side. There's a lot of conversations in this book about the gods choosing sides in the war between Hades and Poseidon and Zeus, or the war within the camp, right? When they do the capture the flag, there's the like these gods kids are on this side, these gods kids are on that side. And I think that what's really fascinating about the impending escape of Kronos is what side do what gods end up on, and which kids fight on which side. And is there going to be a point in this series where Percy has to fight other kids from Camp Half-Blood because of the side that they've chosen in the coming conflict? And how does he handle that? How does Annabeth handle that? Does Grover ever grow up to be like useful at anything? I'm joking. Grover helped. He caught them in the Hephaestus scene. He if he hadn't been there with those flying shoes, he also helped with Medusa. I think those are the only moments where Grover is at like actually. Oh, he talked to the dog to find out that the dog can read English. Genuinely, one of the most insane things I've ever read in a book is Percy Jackson wakes up and like, I don't know what we're gonna do, and Grover's like, well, this dog's telling me that it was reading its own wanted poster. I know you can't read, Percy, but this dog can. Oh, man. I don't think I'm ever going to stop laughing at that. I think anytime someone brings it up, I will still find it funny. It's one of those, like, insane things where I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, the zoo animals I didn't mind as much. Honestly, that didn't feel as convenient. Because the zoo animals didn't really move the plot forward. They were more something that the kids had to interact with the reality of. And the zoo animals are a great example to me of Rick Riordan putting something that's actually kind of dark about our real world into this book so that kids have to think about it and have to come to terms with it a little bit more, right? With the fact that there are people who don't treat animals well. And I think that the way Rick Riordan handles that is much less about like this convenient way for the plot to move forward and more about having the kids have to interact with something real and something that they might be a difficult emotional thing for them to feel. And they have to deal with that. And I really like that moment a lot. I just meant Grover helped with that law. Kind of, but actually Percy can talk to the zebra. So Grover isn't even really necessary in that scene, right? because Percy can talk to the zebra, Grover does sing a song of protection that apparently will let the animals make it to safety, which is questionable. I think that Grover thinks that works. I don't know that actually works. I think that that's a thing that like the mommy and daddy satyrs tell their satyr kids to make them feel better about the world, and that Grover's parents have never told him that's not real. Because if the satyrs could guarantee safe passage to wild animals at all times, that's an insane power. Like, that's just a crazy ability for them to have. What powers that? Well, what is the magic behind that? If Pan is gone, I genuinely think that is him saying something his parents told him as a kid, and all of the adult satyrs are like, oh man, Grover. It's like kids who still think Santa Claus is real at like 15. You know what I mean? At what point is it just weird to tell them that they're wrong? And so you just kind of go, yeah, Grover still thinks that he can sing a song of protection to wild animals, and all the other adults are like, God, that kid, man. I think that's what's going on. I don't think that's real. He said it in the book, and I was like, nah, that's not fucking true. Those animals are fucking dead. You're telling me they're gonna run out into the wilds of Nevada and be fine? I mean, if you can waterbend. Yeah, but Victor Desana, I understand what the magic of the waterbending is, because that comes from Poseidon. Right? Like, this is a world where the magic systems are literal god powers, and the character that should give the songs magic is missing. Like, the god of that power doesn't exist right now, or is like locked away or something. I'm assuming he's locked away. I'm assuming they're gonna go have to save him from. I'm assuming that's what Sea of Monsters is, right? Pan is gonna be, because Grover is. I watched that movie. Grover is in danger, and Percy and Annabeth have to go save him because he finds a lead on Pan. I'm pretty sure the plot of the second movie. And there's a Cyclops named Titus, who is Percy's half brother, right? And the three, like, Titus takes kind of the Grover role, and that's what I remember about it. And then Grover is like, I remember there being a scene in a cave where Grover has to like. There's a really bad scene in a cave with a monster where Grover, I think Grover like puts on women's clothes to like entice the monster or something like that. There's a really insane scene that is just not great. But anyway, that's Percy Jackson Lightning Thief. It's a really good book. It's very funny. It's very fun. It's well written. I really hope the right lessons were learned from season 1 of the show, and season 2 of the show goes in and fixes the tone and vibes issues that season 1 had, while keeping what was successful about season 1, which is good performances and some really solid CGI and cinematography. I do think the fight scenes in season 2 could be stronger, but that will also be helped by the fact that Walter Scobell is going to be 7 years older than he was in season 1 and like 4 feet taller. Already renewed for season 3, so we got some casting news. I don't want to read the casting news until after I read the 3rd book, because I don't want to get spoiled for characters, but I just want the show to be fun. Yeah, I just want the show to be fun. That's the thing. Like, the book, it's so fun. It's such a ride. And it's so crazy because, like, the show, the episodes of the show, some of them are like 23 minutes. And the show feels like a drag. And I don't know how they pulled that off. One, God casting you will like, sick. As long as I get more Jason Mantzoukas, I will be fine. He's such perfect casting as Dionysus. I hope season 2 finds a way to really make me feel like I'm on a ride again. Because the book just feels like that, man. The book flies. It rips. And the vibes are like we've said today, the vibes are immaculate. It's a really good book. Really enjoyed it. My high for the book, high's tough. There's so many good individual scenes. I think my high of the book is I think the high of the book for me is the scene between Percy, Poseidon, and Zeus on Olympus. With like the scene between him and Hades is like a close second. I think both those scenes are just fantastic and really show incredible character in Percy Jackson. My low is really easy. It's the cops flying him. Nothing about that sequence of events makes any sense. The mist is not an excuse for it either because it has nothing to do with magic stuff. It is just a nonsense bridge between two really great sequences. Oscar Arminio says Mr. D is perfect in the show. Love the joke of him pretending to be Percy's dad. Very funny. Very, very funny. And I would love if they do that every season with the new kid. Like Dionysus just pretends with everyone who comes to the camp to be their dad and then is just an ass to them. I think it's a very good bit. Jason Mantzoukas is just one of my favorite people on the planet. Like if there's one person, if you're like, who's your dream podcast interview? It's Jason Mantzoukas. I would give anything to sit down for an hour-long conversation with him. Except his two kids at the camp. Well, yeah. Yeah, there is that. Yeah. The reason why I know I would have loved this show when I was a kid, do you guys know what Class of the Titans is? That's what it was called, right? Class of the Titans. Class of the Titans. Yes. Oh, it was Canadian. You guys might not know what this is. That's wild. I didn't know it was a Canadian TV show. Oh my God. It came out the same year. No, not Clash. Not Clash of the Titans. Class of the Titans. It was a show in 2005. It came out in 2005. Class of the Titans was an animated show in 2005 about the kids of... It's the same premise. It's almost the exact same premise as Percy Jackson. Literally. It's literally the exact same premise. I'll read the synopsis for you. Cronus, the Titan of Time, who was imprisoned in Tartarus for thousands of years after being defeated by his son Zeus, escapes when the planets align on New Year's Eve. An ancient prophecy predicts that 7 teenage heroes, Jay, Atlanta, Harry, Archie, Teresa, Odie, and Neil, who are the descendants of ancient Greek heroes, will be the ones to defeat Cronus for good. After being found, they are brought to Olympus High School in New Olympia, where they train to become strong enough to face him while fighting against monsters he sends to attack them. So like Jay, the leader is the descendant of Jason of the Argonauts. Atlanta is the descendant of Atalanta. Harry is the descendant of Hercules. Archie is the descendant of Achilles. Teresa is the descendant of Theseus. Odie is the descendant of Odysseus, obviously. Neil is the descendant of Narcissus, and that's the team. And Chiron, who is the centaur, like trains them. But it's literally like almost the exact same thing as Percy Jackson. I did not know that this was a Canadian thing. Guys, I loved this show as a kid, which is why I know I would have enjoyed Percy Jackson at the same time. Like, I loved this show as a kid. And like, even like where's like a piece of art I can show you guys? So like, it looked like this. So even like the Jay, the leader there with his sword, kind of looks like Percy Jackson with Riptide. Class of the Titans fucking rocked. It was so sick. And I love that it was Canadian. I wonder if I could... Oh my God. I wonder if I could get a live action... like a Canadian live action show going. That's what I should be using all of my clout for, chat. I should be trying to turn Class of the Titans into a modern age show where I get to play Chiron, the centaur, and I compete with Percy Jackson, but I'm more fun. Victor Desana, I have this much clout. I couldn't get a TV show made, but you're right. I know. I wish I had clout. I don't. But in my dreams, I could get a show like that made. God, Class of the Titans was so good. If you like Percy Jackson, go watch Class of the Titans. Not a sponsor, just a love of mine. Actual sponsor of this was Here's Without Borders 2 is coming in November, December. Stay tuned. There will be a raffle for a Nintendo Switch 2. So we already have the Switch 2. We're going to give away a Switch 2 as part of the charity event. So if you want a Switch 2 and you live in North America, anywhere in North America that is not Quebec, you might be able to win one. Let's get out of here. If you like the video, like, subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave me comments down below because the algorithm goddess hungry and we must feed her. This episode, that algorithm goddess is Annabeth. Because, like, wow, fuck, man. Her backstory is so sad. Watching her friend die, being kind of dismissed by her dad. At least she has a dope gift from her mom, though. That Yankees baseball cap. Underscore says, Cosmere RPG unboxing. Underscore, I don't have mine yet because it's out of stock. I'm a little pissed about it. As soon as I have my Cosmere RPG, I might do that unboxing as a live stream. That sounds fun. That will be on the Roleplay Relay. So if you're not following the Roleplay Relay on YouTube, make sure you go subscribe to the Roleplay Relay on YouTube. That is where Heroes Without Border 2 is happening. That's what the sponsorship should be. I should be trying to get people to subscribe over there. But I will be doing I'll probably do a live Cosmere RPG unboxing over on that channel. The problem is I don't have mine yet. And I don't know when I'm getting mine because everyone I know in Canada who bought it, who donated, or who did the Kickstarter already has their copy. As far as I know, I'm the only person who doesn't. And according to Brotherwise team, it's because they don't have all of the elements that I paid for. So I think that because I've got all of the minis and everything, that mine is going to take a little bit longer because they're waiting on like one last piece to get shipped. So as soon as I can do a Cosmere RPG unboxing, I will. I legitimately I can't do it yet because I don't have it. There's no Smut Corner today because this is a series about children. And I'm not playing that game. Anyway, I think that's it. I think we did what, 2.5 hours? We did a solid 2.5 hours on Percy Jackson. I think I was pretty fair to it. It's a really good book. It has some really insane choices in it, and it's very fun. And I highly recommend it. I do highly recommend it. I think that, especially if you've got kids, I think this is the kind of book you want to read to your kids, man. If you're looking for something like Harry Potter for your kid to become obsessed with, I think that this is a better version of that. I legitimately think this is a better book than Philosopher's Stone. And so I don't know if the rest of the series is. I don't know where it goes from here. But right now, I would say that this is, if I were to have kids, this is what I would want to introduce them to. Thanks so much, everyone. Do something nerdy tonight, and I will see you all maybe this weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do with the next book because of the move and whatnot, so it might be a minute. But we will do book club for book 2. I will let you all know as soon as I have a plan for that. This is the last book club from this set. I'm literally going to hit stop stream, and then I'm taking everything off these walls because everything must go. Everything has to be out of this house by Monday. So this is the last book club from the set. That's crazy. We will see you all from the new house probably. Hopefully Clarus will be back soon. I miss her. I'm so alone. Do something internet, y'all. Thank you, mods. Bye, everybody.